All right, we are live with episode 6 of Ignite That Light. Super grateful for everyone joining. Today we have a very special guest at Lady Wells 42 on X, aka Blaze Your Thoughts. I call her Blaze. You can call her whatever you want to call her, or she can tell you what she prefers to be called, which is the right approach. And our topic today is overcoming self-doubt and embracing confidence. I just want to welcome everyone again to this podcast. I don't take your listens, your views for granted. I'm super grateful for your time today, and I want to just call that out there that, again, the mission of Ignite That Light is to motivate, inspire, and connect more deeply with other people. So if you're not, as a listener, feeling motivated or inspired or encouraged, or feel like you're learning more about us as people, then I'm failing you, and that's not what I want to do. So I welcome all feedback. You know how to find me on X at Positively Chris, at Ignite That Light. Both will reach me. And with that, I want to again welcome everyone to this conversation about self-doubt. I do want to let Blaze have the floor and introduce yourself and let people know more about you.
I'm Blaze. I originally came to X. I wasn't satisfied with other platforms, and I'm here to promote some positivity and make an impact and advocate for autism.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I do want to, again, take a moment to pause and reiterate that autism aspect of your account. That's one that I think resonates with many people, and myself included, and want to just recommend that, again, if you're not following Blaze yet at Lady Wells 42, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Follow her, learn more about her journey, and more about why she's on X as soon as possible, because you're missing out if you're not following her already.
Thank you.
Of course. And I do want to, as we step into this topic of overcoming self-doubt, I want to make sure that we level set, right? We do this with every episode. I think we try to get clear on the definition of what self-doubt is, and then we can kind of move forward from there. But I've in the past tried looking up definitions of things, but they've always left me feeling like they're only like partially true, and they need a little more clarity or a little more nuance, I would say, right? It's not so black and white. And
Right.
I would love to hear your perspective. What is self-doubt to you, Blaze? Kind of how would you define it? I'll offer my definition as well, but want to give you a chance to kind of, how would you describe self-doubt?
I guess it would be saying to yourself that I don't trust you. I don't trust your judgment, your direction, things like that. It can entail a very large scope of definitions when it comes to that. So
For sure.
I guess the first thing I would say would be, I don't trust you. You don't trust yourself. So
That's fantastic. Yeah, no, that's a great way to describe it. I think for me, I think it's like, and I think we'll talk about this later, but whenever I hear self-doubt, I think like lack of belief in oneself, right? Similar to what you said, and almost ties into this idea of imposter syndrome. And again, that's something I think many of us do struggle with in our daily lives. We'll dive deeper into that, I think, later on, but wanted to make sure that we kind of understand, again, what self-doubt is, and make sure that we have like a clear and shared understanding to a degree, right? You said that it's like, I don't trust you, I don't believe in you, but you're saying it to yourself.
Right.
And that's, I think, that's a fantastic way to kind of describe it as more or less like that's what it is to us. And would you add anything else to that, or do you think that's pretty good?
I think that's pretty good. Yeah, I think that's initially what comes to my mind.
It's fine. Yeah, absolutely. And we do, now that we have that kind of step there, we can move forward in this conversation. And I did want to, as we kind of talk about this topic, give you a chance to share a little bit about your own personal journey of self-doubt. What kind of more along the lines of a specific moment or experience that where self-doubt was either overwhelming or it felt stronger than what you would typically see or what you would typically feel, and maybe how it impacted you, your thoughts, your actions. Like, just could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there were kind of two key pivotal moments in my life that um, I would say that I struggled massively with self doubt and also depression. And it was after I had surgery. I had a full hysterectomy, and it changed everything about me. Um, uh, my body was depressed afterwards, medically and physically and emotionally, and there was so many psychological changes too. It just I lacked everything in my body that made me a woman, and I guess I kind of always struggled with self doubt and depression to a certain degree, but the amount that I allowed myself to succumb to was really unhealthy. And um, I guess point, the other pivotal moment would be when my son was diagnosed with autism. Um, I think I was extremely surprised at the diagnosis. It didn't even cross my mind. And, you know, uh, it, it made me question a lot of things as a parent. So,
How did it make you feel physically? Did you feel when you started going through these moments of self doubt? Did you feel like it weighed you down? Did like what were some kind of emotions that you felt? If we can kind of follow up on that, did you like how were your thoughts? Kind of like can you kind of like remember or reflect on how that really kind of impacted you?
yeah, it's like there's a type of numbness that you get, like a complete numbness. And um, it's really hard to even filter your way out of it. Uh, and I still struggle with this every single day. Just those feelings of numbness and heaviness at times, because the lack of emotions at times that you feel like you should have in certain situations, and things of that sort. But I also had no energy and motivation. Um, I was really foggy at times. My mind was foggy. I'm very forgetful, and I mean, it changed my entire quality of life um, afterwards. And it, it really, it almost felt like I just had no purpose at all. And, I felt like even the basic of things, the basic necessity of things that I should feel comfortable doing every day, I wasn't even able to do it. And yeah, it was pretty rough. And sometimes it still is, because I'm still working on it and I'm still trying to figure out myself, and figure out this new way of life, because it's not easy to get used to. And it I'm not exaggerating when I tell you it completely changes you as a person, because I think, these organs in our body contribute to so many different areas, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And, when they're taken out of your body like that, it's it's definitely a shock to your entire system. So um, it still is sometimes, it's something that it's trial and error, figuring out what works and what doesn't. Um, so I'm still in that trial and error um,
Yeah, for
part
sure.
of it.
Yeah, I mean that's I can't even imagine that. It's like it sounds like it's like taking a piece of you from you, right? So
Yeah,
and I think
definitely.
that sort of um, just kind of trying to visualize that or see that happening to me, it's sort of it sort of doesn't compute, and I mean that in the most respectful way possible,
Yeah,
right?
it
It's
is.
not
It's
something.
really hard to even you're right. It's hard to compute that
Mhm.
as even as a human being, but
Yeah.
it is. It's one of the it's probably one of the worst times I have felt in my entire life. And, you know, if I could go back, I would not have got it done. I wish I wouldn't have got it done. So, but, I had a lot of medical issues that required it to be done, so I did it. And in the process, almost passed away, and that alone was traumatic. So it's just literally been a learning curve. It's like, you know, um, getting this new body and in an entirely different person, and you have to get used to everything. You have to get used to all the tools all over again. You have to it's a learning curve.
Yeah, no, I have the utmost sympathy for you and for kind of what you've been through. I think that's a challenge for me, again, like I said, to even process. And I'm grateful for you sharing this on the podcast. I was thinking about as you were talking, and the is there anything in particular that you can say has any actions, any habits that you've gotten into? And I've talked about habits on a previous podcast episode actually, but any habits that you've kind of used to help kind of get out of some of those feelings of self-doubt, those feelings of lesser than the fogginess of the brain. Is there anything that you can say that you've done just as a habit? Is it maybe thoughts like related to like mantras or meditating? Is there anything that you've done or that you would that's been helpful for you to kind of get through some of this?
Um, no, not at the moment.
Okay. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because I'm still in the middle of my journey. And so I'm learning along with everybody else. But there are things that have been placed in my path that
Hmm.
I'm going to be trying, like Amber. She has kind of a holistic way, or a holistic approach with her products
Yeah.
that I'm going to be trying very, very soon, in order to help a lot of these areas, because a lot of it does stem from the hormonal aspect. And so she has several products that might help me in that area. But also I do read books that promote self growth, self positivity, affirmations, enlightenment, things like that have helped me kind of set myself into a direction of where I want to go, as an individual and as a woman
Yeah.
and as a mother, as a wife, the person that I want to be. And so, I mean, I've been surrounding myself with some incredible individuals also, such as yourself. You
Oh,
know,
thank you.
it's like people like Amber, Ben, Jay, Mindrunner, Norwood, Lola, Selena, Jay.
Lots of
All of these people are such beautiful souls. Like they really, really are, and they have, like, truly, they have made such an incredible impact in my life already. And I mean, I feel like I've known them for 15 years. They just feel like family. And, I think it's important to surround yourself with people that want the best for you, that, encourage you to be your best self, that offers advice and encouragement in like a loving and compassionate, way. And so I'm very appreciative in where I am right now. I'm extremely satisfied. I'm looking forward to progressing in this journey of self-discovery,
and
so
like, no, that's great. Well said, I think, Blaze. And you talked about a bunch of people who light you up. I would say they light me up as well. And when you
right,
surround yourself with people like that who really, really make the whole human experience thing a little more bearable,
right,
the kind
right.
that's the kind of friend group that you want, that I want personally. And I
Right.
think you're speaking my language in that sense, that it comes down to being more, just I think me, it's all about gratitude for the fact that we found each other, right? Like
Right.
it's a
Like out of all the people in the entire world, we somehow all connected to each other. That alone is mind blowing. It truly is
it
because
really is, yeah.
we're alike in so many ways, but different, and I think I'm telling you, I have learned so much from you guys. It's unreal. And I feel like there was a point where I had cut myself off from society and withdrew so much, you know, from my community, from my family, my friends, even my children. And I was so depressed that, I got to a point where it was so dark. And then I decided to do this on X, and it was like bam. People are amazing on here. And so they really have inspired me to go further in my journey, and they have uplifted me in so many ways, so many times, advised me when I needed it, coached me. I mean, it's really, really unreal, and I am incredibly grateful.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, Blaze, in terms of like the fact that these people have sort of given us more hope in our day to day, right?
Mhm.
And given us more
Yeah,
hope in humanity, and more belief in that.
absolutely.
What you're describing really does resonate, because these are people that, again, like we're all, like somebody told me once that, like, in our lifetime, it's basically this really super long rope, right? If you think about like this rope that just has all these fine little fibers in it, and that's kind of where everyone kind of fits in like the timeline of the universe, right? And like we're like this tiny little microscopic piece of that
Mhm.
rope. And the fact that we all have found each other in
Yeah.
this group is sort of, it's a
Like, we're
it's a
like a
miracle in
speck
itself.
of dust,
Exactly.
in this vastness of space. The odds are pretty crazy here, but
They are.
somehow we made it.
True, that's true. And I think that's important to remember and to reiterate to
Mhm.
folks that are watching, that are listening, that you can find friends to rely on, you can find family to rely on.
Yeah.
I know that you've mentioned in the past that friends and family, especially, I think your husband's been super
Mhm.
important to your journey and helping you kind of get through some of the more difficult times. And
Mhm.
I think for me, I can say the same about my wife as well. She's, been
Right.
super impactful and helping me reframe how I think about my career and my lifestyle, right? Like she sort of
Right.
changed my perspective and helped me see outside of this one silo or this one box, right? And I think that's important to remember for everyone who listens to this, that we as humans, I think we're built for social connection. We're built for
Right.
that. Yeah, it's more difficult for some than others. I'm not saying it's easy, but what I'm
Right.
saying is that we have this innate, built-in need for connection. And when you find the right people, you will know it. You will feel
Yeah,
it. It'll
definitely.
be obvious. And I think that's what's going on here. And I don't want to speak
It
for you,
just
Blake, but
feels
that's what
right.
it feels, that's the kind of the thing, right? It's like it's not forced in any way. It's
Right.
sort of a natural vibe. And again, I
Mhm.
think when you find the right people, you'll know it, because it'll also, um, obviously it's going to take some work to kind of build that trust and everything,
Right.
but you'll know when you find people that are at least
Right.
compatible.
Most definitely. I agree. Yeah, it just feels right. It feels, like I said, it feels like we've kind of all known each other for, years upon years. And so, yeah, I mean, it just sometimes people just click, and we did, and
Yeah.
it's been going ever since. But I will like to I do want to mention my husband. My husband has
Yeah.
been very, very patient and compassionate. In this journey and that I've been on, and never failed to make me feel beautiful as a woman. And, so I do want to give him plenty of credit because he's definitely helped me in that aspect. And my mom has been, my mom's, she's an angel. She's awesome. She goes above and beyond, always, never fails. Mom's a mama. You know what I
There you
mean?
go. Yeah.
Mamas do whatever they can.
Yeah, they do. They really
Mhm.
go all out, especially when
They do.
their family, when their kids are in need. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
I know that's a fact. And speaking of again your mother, I know that as we think about like kind of diving now, kind of going from our discussion about our personal kind of journeys, or at least your personal journey, right, Blaze, and kind of talking through self-doubt. I do know I don't want to give it away, but I think it would be helpful for people to hear a story of somebody other than us, like hear about like a story from outside of just us two, that
Mhm.
where somebody has successfully conquered a self-doubt in their life. And I'll let you take it away and let the listeners and viewers know what I'm talking about.
Okay. So, one of the most impactful stories is the story of my mother. She was sexually abused by her pastor when she was a teenager, and mentally and emotionally abused also. And she was kind of raised in like a cult like religion, and she had to live with that trauma for years, from childhood into her teenage years. Talking about the emotional, from childhood to teenage to adulthood, and even into my childhood. She struggled for a very, very, very long time. And she's always been a very kind Christian woman, but it left her crippled with anxiety and struck with fear at times. She went through like deep states of depression. She trusted very few people, and it prevented her from even entertaining the idea of having, an intimate relationship with anyone, and that continued throughout my childhood until I was probably like 11 or 12, so it lasted a long time. And so it was really hard to see her go through these moments of deep depression and I guess sad, like deep rooted traumatic sadness, and it and there was nothing that I could do. There was nothing that I could say or do to make it feel better. And if I could have, I definitely would have taken it away from her. But there came a point in her life where she was tired of carrying, this heaviness that stemmed from the sexual abuse. And, you know, um, there was a moment where she faced, we were at a church service, and he came to visit the church that we attended consistently. And some words were kind of exchanged, and he approached her and had told her, saying that, God told God told him to tell her that he would give her the desires of her heart if she would just surrender. And her response was, if he talks to you, then why didn't he tell you to ask me for forgiveness for what you did to me? You ruined my entire life. And it was not very long after, I mean, within a few minutes, he started to step away. And at first, he denied it. He said, I don't remember anything I ever did. I don't know. I just can't remember it. And she said, that's a cop out. And he turned to walk away. And then he turned back around to face her. and he said, "Forgive me for the things that I did to you. You know, I'm not worth missing heaven over." And he turned around and walked away. And that kind of started her journey of forgiveness. That journey was not for him, it was for her. Forgiveness is never about the other person. It's for yourself. And you know, it he definitely, I think her mind frame was, you know, he definitely wasn't worth the sadness that she consistently put herself through, but it was understandable also. When you're faced with these types of situations, it's traumatic, and some people never get over these things. It's something that stays with you for your entire life. And I think it affected me to a certain extent, but her experience was felt in magnitudes. And so she realized he was right. He wasn't worth it. And that's where her journey started. And, she felt like God, expressed to her that, he knows and that it's okay to let it go. And so it kind of cultivated like I guess like a type of confidence and empowerment that she had never experienced in her entire life. And and you could see it. And I don't think it's something she'll ever forget. But like I said, the forgiveness wasn't for him; it was for her. And because of that, it changed my life too.
I
And
bet.
so to see that, the difference, you know, with how she was before and how she is now. She still struggles, but that heaviness is not there like it used to be. That darkness is not there like it used to be. And so I'm very grateful for her. She's been a wonderful mother. She has never failed to love me in her darkest moments. She's, like I said, she's went above and beyond, and I am incredibly grateful, for her,
She
and
sounds like a really amazing and powerful woman.
yeah, she is. She's a very, very, very strong individual.
Yeah.
And I think, I would never say, these experiences, are okay, but I think that experience, changed the course of her direction, but then she changed it herself and decided to go on a different path, a path that improved her quality of life, and, understanding that the forgiveness was for her to move on and it was absolutely incredible and empowering. Even, I know it was empowering for her, it was empowering for me.
Hmm.
So it was, it's a very one of those dark, situations, but somehow it ended up beautiful,
Yeah.
by just a random chance. But she's helped other people that have experienced the same thing. And so I think witnessing that and seeing her help other people, that's went through that same thing has also been, really beautiful to experience and watch, because a lot of people don't talk about these things because, for one, they're terrified to even talk about it, and it's not something that people bring up a lot, but it's something that definitely should be talked about because it happens all the time,
Oh, yeah.
so yeah, that was that's my, the story of my mother is one of the most impactful for me.
I appreciate you sharing that, Blaze, for sure. If you didn't feel listening to this, if you didn't feel any emotion during that entire speech from Blaze, then you're not a human being. Because let me tell you, I was on the verge of letting these tears come down.
I know,
Just
me
so
too.
you
I
know.
was like, keep it together,
Yeah.
Blaze. Keep it
No,
together.
you did a great job, and I mean, if you wanted to, you could totally let it loose. But yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that, and it's when I think about something like that, and I don't want to spend, I don't want to prolong kind of what we're talking about unless we feel like it's necessary. But the idea of like victim shaming kind of is also something I think that we like is important to remember too. When people say that they've been a victim, sometimes nowadays, especially,
Right.
there's this question of, well, why didn't you bring it up when it happened, right? And like,
Hard to
there's all
talk
this.
about.
Exactly. And then, I
Yeah.
mean, and again, I don't want to speak for you or for your mother, obviously, but the idea that, that somebody could like have that sort of mental fortitude and that just ability to be able to go through something traumatic and then within a day or two have everything together in a way that like it's not human. Like as a human being, you feel things,
Right.
and it takes time to process things. and
Definitely.
and and for anyone to think that, like, again, I'm not speaking for you or for your mom, but I feel like that's something that, as human beings, we have to remember that it sometimes can take a while to kind of
Oh yeah.
express how you're feeling and how things went, and
Right.
even to remember like a trauma
Yeah.
event. Like it takes time to kind of to remember
Yeah,
what.
because like like y- also, you have to remember like back then they weren't given the tools to help them, process their trauma. And, because she didn't have the tools to help process her trauma, it was hard for her to help or give me the tools to process, any type of, issues that I was having mentally and emotionally. And so
Absolutely.
it was like a snowball effect that, you know, um, uh, what there was something I had read, traumatize people, you know, and that is the truth. Like, and she was never, emotionally, like abusive or anything, but I think not given the tools and being in that environment a lot, it was hard. It was absolutely unequivocally hard for her, but it was also hard watching her go through that too. And, not being able and feeling helpless and not being able to help her the way that I wanted to help her because I was young. I didn't know. I wasn't aware of everything that, was going on in her life. And I think, people just were not given the right tools to help better themselves in that area. But even if they were, it's all about, it depends on the individual and how long, it takes, what their mental state is, and emotionally and mentally and how they process things. And, it took her a long time, but, she did it. And, I was proud. I was really proud of her. So, you know,
You should be, because I mean, like that's something that, again, like the way you described it, she's clearly a stunning and beautiful person in the sense that like she
mhm.
has that ability to forgive, right? I think so many of us nowadays, myself included, have a hard time forgiving things that have happened to us, right? But you said it wasn't
Mhm.
necessarily about that person that we're feeling that anger or that grudge toward, but rather about ourselves, like
Yeah,
forgiving
right,
and
right,
and allowing us to move forward. um, that's just it's again, the story turned out, I think, better than it could have, right? I think the way you
right.
described it, it's again, I appreciate you sharing that. It was tough for me to even hear it, so I can only imagine how it feels to even share that. So I just want to take a moment to
Yeah,
express
it,
appreciation.
it is hard. It is hard to even talk about it
Yeah.
because, a lot of, like I said, a lot of people don't talk about it, but, I think bringing the awareness around the topic is important, and it's important for other people not to feel alone in this and that there's people that care about you. When you're going through these dark times, there's people that will listen, that will, come alongside you and support you, however they can, and so, the point I wanted to make is, I just wanted to bring awareness around, you know, some of the things that we dealt with, and hope that maybe it kind of speaks to someone else, and maybe ignites a light within them to
Well done.
got it. Ignites a light within them, maybe to share their story with someone else. And, it's like a ripple effect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's well said. And I, I appreciate you sharing all of this. Like I said, I did want to take a moment and kind of go off script for just a second and talk about something that is relevant, I think, hopefully to other people, not just myself, not just you, but the idea of that imposter syndrome and that self-doubt, that limiting belief, right? That idea that when we do something, how do we know that we're doing it well, right? And it can be something really basic, right? It can be something like, I don't know, hosting a space on X. How do you know that you're actually good at or improving on a skill? And I just want to take a moment to kind of give an example that's very relevant to me nowadays, and it's actually picking up the piano, picking up a musical instrument. I've always wanted to learn a musical instrument, and I've struggled with kind of finding the time, or making the time. Also, I don't want to give excuses, but making the time to
Right.
dedicate to focus on a musical instrument, guitar. Now I'm kind of trying to do a little more piano or keyboard, and what
I
I've
love that.
done, it's tough. I mean,
It is hard.
it's
It
really
is
hard.
really, really hard. I tried to learn bass one time, and I was like, my dad tried to teach me once, and I was like, forget it. It's
Yeah,
too freaking complicated. No way.
no
I was
way.
a teenager, and I was like, I ain't doing this. It was
Yeah,
really hard, but I really wish I would have. I wish I would have learned, but I know how to play a tiny bit on the piano, but I'm telling you, learning a musical instrument, it that takes a lot of patience with yourself, a lot of grace, and
yeah,
it takes it takes consistency and time,
yeah. It
so
does. And I posted a video of me doing that song from the movie Big. I don't know if you've seen that movie with Tom Hanks, but the
I
piano
haven't.
scene. It's a great. There's a scene where they play a song called Heart and Soul, and they're dancing on the piano. I'll share a link later tonight, I'm sure, on X. But this dancing scene on this piano that's like at FAO Schwartz, like the old like toy store thing. And like they did this dance, and like I tried learning the song on the piano. I placed it or posted a video online, and I felt like it was good. Some people recognize, some people don't. It's like I sort of have that self doubt on a daily basis. But what I've learned about, and I wanted to share this with others on listening to this podcast, is that that idea of imposter syndrome, or the lack of belief in oneself, sometimes is a sign of self awareness, because what you'll find is that the people sometimes who think they're the experts are the ones who don't know very much at all. So
Right.
you'd rather be having a conversation with, or how, like, say, like coaching somebody who is willing to accept the fact that they don't know everything. That says a lot about their self-awareness, and about their just about, I think, some maturity involved there too.
Right, most definitely.
So I just wanted to throw that out there as a just a side kind of tangential conversation as we think about self-doubt, because it's something that, again, I'm going after talking about your mother, kind of, I didn't, it's hard to really talk about, anything else, because that's like
I
such
know.
a powerful story that I didn't want to like totally I didn't know how to really move topics, but wanted to at least give
We'll figure it
people,
out, Chris.
yeah, give people a chance to like also like end this on a high note. And
Yeah, okay.
and that's what kind of
Do
was
it.
my goal with that. And hopefully, if you have experience with experience with imposter syndrome, feel free to share. Otherwise, we can talk more about confidence, because I know we've done a lot about self doubt. I want to give a moment to kind of talk about confidence as well.
Okay, so I guess, like the when it comes to confidence, I am still on this road.
Yeah, yeah,
I
it's
am
a journey.
still on this road
Uh,
because, like I said, I'm kind of in this this area in my life where I'm really trying to tap into my creativity, how I feel as an individual, because I feel differently anyways, so I feel like, kind of in order to cultivate that confidence, we got to stop kind of giving self doubt the reins to be superior in our lives. We have to submerge ourselves into like communities, that promote, self positivity and promote self awareness and things like that. Read books, affirmations every single day, just give yourself grace and maybe, allow yourself to make those mistakes and build upon that, because when you do build upon that, you become your better self each time, so
Well said.
that one's a tough one for me because I struggle with that, fiercely,
Yeah.
so but we're learning.
For sure, Blaze, and I appreciate you saying that, and appreciate your humility and your transparency, and just your willingness to be vulnerable. Because I think that's a hard part for a lot of people, and you've expressed a lot on this conversation and this discussion that puts you really far on the vulnerability scale in terms of like not vulnerable and super vulnerable. And I appreciate you sharing that, because again, it's a beautiful thing, and I hope that these conversations inspire others to be a little more vulnerable in their
Me
conversation,
too.
and can grow and learn from that, right? I think at the end of the day, if we're all guarded and we don't feel comfortable sharing how we're really feeling or the stories that really make us who we are, then we're
Right.
really shortchanging the world in terms of not just learning from other people's experiences, but also maybe we're not looking at things in a way that is optimal. Maybe there is another way, and that's kind of, again, I don't want to go off topic, but that's part of the reason why I'm even on the X app, is to learn
Right.
from others, right? Like I don't have
Right.
expertise in 99.99% of the topics that exist out there. I just don't, but I'm willing to learn. Uh,
Absolutely.
that's a key thing, and like for confidence, especially, I would go with what you just said. Like it's a journey. Find a community that really fits what you're looking
Mhm.
at, what you're looking
Right.
for. Our friends like Journeyman and Mental Reboot, especially fun people who also,
Journeyman is awesome.
he is, and
I love him to death.
but
He's great.
he inspires me, and he helps me
Me
think about
too.
things differently, and I just,
Mental Reboot,
yeah,
Cordell,
yeah, all
like
these
I
people,
just met Cordell and
yeah,
I love his mind.
yeah,
Like his mind is just it blows my mind.
yeah,
Journeyman is, I mean,
stunning,
man, there's
and
some great people on here. It just really I'm
yeah,
just like it seriously, when I think about it, I just get this overwhelming feeling of thankfulness because there really is
yeah.
so many great people on here. So,
The gratitude way, for sure. I feel that as well, and I think they help me feel a little more confident about what I'm doing and what I bring to
mhm.
the app as I communicate and collaborate with everyone that I interact with.
Right.
Because again, I'm sharing what I think, or what I think is right. I don't always have the right answers,
Right,
but,
but it's
but
like you said, like, and I'm where you are too. Like, I'm always willing to learn something. If I don't know what's going on, like with Amber doing this comedy special kind of thing, and I told her I'm not good at improv. I'm horrible at it. I'm awkward, and so, I think it's been awesome that she's been doing these things that, inspire improv because it's something I'm horrible at. It's like this collective consciousness, what we
mhm,
talk about all the time. It's the
that's right.
craziest thing. And so we all just somehow, we all just work together and it's just absolutely incredible. It
It's incredible. It's
really it is.
confidence booster too, right? What we just talked
Most
about. It's
definitely.
like when you realize, hey, I contributed, I did that,
Right.
and then you hear about it later from, again, at Champagne's Brain on X. Make sure you're
Right.
following Amber Champagne if you're not already. You're missing
Right.
out. But yeah, if you, like when you hear her or you see her post later on saying, we did all of this. It's like, yeah, actually we did do all that, didn't we? Like it starts to kind of
Right.
sink in a little more. And you're like, man, I contributed to that.
Right.
And it sort of opens my eyes. I think it probably opens yours as well. And
Yeah.
yeah, this has been a great conversation, Blaze. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I did want to give you a chance as we kind of wrap up. I think 45 minutes is probably sufficient for most people's. I think their attention spans, I realize, are pretty limited, but I do want to, me as well. I know you have things to do. It's getting late. I do want to give you a chance to kind of, as we wrap up, leave this conversation with a statement, whatever you want to say, any kind of last words, parting words, anything that you feel would be, whatever comes to you, whatever speaks to you. I just want to give you the floor and let you kind of have the final word.
I guess it would be, to give yourself grace in every situation. Give yourself grace, allow yourself to make some mistakes and build upon that. Um, Try and train yourself to be in a positive mindset, retrain your brain. It's important. Read books that promote, self growth, positivity, kindness to yourself, and that promote self care and, be an advocate for yourself because at the end of the day, you're the one that's left with yourself. So, it's important to take care of yourself. It really is. So,
Well said.
I guess that would be it.
Thank you, Blaze. Yeah, I think you are your best advocate is a perfect summation of what you just said, and give yourself grace. Spot on. I hope everyone listening, watching has taken something of value from the conversation, or at least what we've talked about has resonated to some degree, because again, I think I definitely could learn from that, giving myself grace. And it's
right. I think we all can. I think
Yeah.
we've just kind of been conditioned into beating ourselves up when we make a mistake. And it doesn't always have to be like that. It can be turned into a stepping stone, and it can be turned into a positive it can be turned into, something positive that we can learn from and pick apart and apply it to our life and go from there. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Blaze. I appreciate your time tonight. Appreciate this conversation. I'm leaving this conversation with a deeper understanding of you as a person, of your background, and of how you deal with self-doubt and how, the challenges that you face. And I think that's, again, what you've gone through in your life is, I mean, it's been, I'm sure, one way to describe it would be challenging, but you are working through this and finding ways to, be kind of self-confident, right? Or working toward that, right? And I think that's again, this is not this should not be viewed as a completely pessimistic conversation. I feel like there's a lot of reason for optimism and hope, and I hope that everyone
definitely
has that kind of takeaway from here. And I'm just super grateful for your time tonight, because this has been quite enjoyable, and I appreciate you sharing as much as you have.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on here. It means a lot to me.
Of course. And maybe we'll have you back on here for season 2 of Ignite the Light. Maybe we'll have not to give away spoilers, but season 2 after the end of the calendar year, you might have conversations with Chris, but don't tell anyone I said that. Don't share with anyone that I'm thinking about
sure
that. An hour-long conversation where we just talk about what comes to mind and have a little more.
That would be great.
It'd be fun. We can talk about our favorite sports teams, our favorite not sports teams, our whatever you want to talk about, our favorite movies. We can make it a lot more fun.
Talk about Norwood.
Of course. talk about favorite and impressions that people do for we could talk about just about anything. And Not going to give that away. Again, spoiler alert. But appreciate your time tonight, and we'll let you get going. Thanks so much, Blaze.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
I'll see you soon.
Yeah, of course. Bye.
Bye.